Hello out there, everybody. Manny here at Area 503. And I hope you all have been well since our last video. Today, we're going to be going over some updated information into the story of the closing of the Sunspot Observatory that occurred in September 2018. We first covered the closing of Sunspot in episode 3, so if you didn't get a chance to watch that, we'll recap everything that happened. If you're already up to date on the story, feel free to skip to the time noted in the pinned comment and you can get right to the new information. If you're not familiar with what happened, watch this segment.
The Sunspot Observatory is empty, and it's unclear why. The facility, located about 15 miles south of Cloudcroft, was evacuated yesterday for security reasons.
Estella, we know that the FBI is the agency that evacuated the facility, but no one seems to know what exactly is going on.
We have decided to temporarily vacate the facility as a precautionary measure, and we're working with the proper authorities on this issue.
Even local law enforcement doesn't know what's going on. They asked us if we knew anything. Residents in nearby Cloudcroft are just as puzzled.
I knew law enforcement went out there recently for some sort of incident regarding the United States government, I guess is what I heard. Like I said, what I know is just rumors that are going around town.
Nothing really happens up here very much, and since nobody knows, it could be almost anything.
13-year-old Montana Peterson says one of his friends who lives near the observatory was evacuated.
He just said there was a bunch of, he said FBI, a lot of law enforcement went up there, and everybody had to get out.
A post office near the observatory has also been closed.
Right now, what we're told is that they've temporarily evacuated the area. So we haven't been told why or when that expires.
Residents also say they saw helicopters flying over the observatory on Thursday.
As locals, I feel like we should know what's going on around us.
We continue to investigate the closure of the National Solar Observatory in Sunspot, which was unexpectedly closed last Thursday with no explanation given.
After coming up to the Sunspot Observatory for ourselves to find out why it and the post office remains closed, we found that many officials remain tight-lipped about the reasons.
I don't know what that is. I just heard about that today, some cloak and dagger thing that's going on up there, and I actually have no idea.
Does it concern you at all that the FBI is investigating it?
A little bit, yes, but there's lots of pranks, and so that's probably what it was.
I reached out to the FBI, but they did not return my phone call. The FBI did speak with local law enforcement about the length of the observatory closure.
They spoke to our sergeant initially and indicated that they'll be down for a few days. So that could be anywhere from a few days to months, is from my past experience.
The FBI did not, however, tell Sheriff House the reason for the closure. As for the post office in Sunspot, a spokesperson with the USPS told me they were left in the dark as well.
Well, we were told on September 6th that we'd be evacuated along with the surrounding area. We weren't told why that was the case, but we were told to just be out of the area.
When I asked him who told him to evacuate, he told me
that we don't know.
And as for a timetable for reopening the post office,
no, that's still up in the air. We will remain suspended until we're allowed to return.
Okay, I'm not going to make any claims, and this is the neat part. Okay, check out this list. Now these are solar observatories and cams in Australia, Chile, Spain, 2 in Hawaii, and 1 in Pennsylvania. All of these went down at the exact same time as the solar observatory in New Mexico. And are they still down? Well, let's take a look. I updated these just about 10 minutes ago. Oh, here's the one in Hawaii. Oh, that cam's been shut down, okay? This one's been shut down. This one, cam is offline, maybe due to network or hardware failures. So this solar cam is down. This one is also down, can't find it. And here's the 6th one down, unauthorized, can't find the webcam. So all 6 of these went down at the exact same time and are still down in Australia, Chile, Spain, 2 in Hawaii, and Pennsylvania. And this is SOHO. This is on NASA's own website. And interestingly enough, they will tell you that, let's see, we're updating the code infrastructure provided to the SOHO, and we expect the work to take several weeks.
Yeah, Tessa, this employee didn't want to be identified, but he wants the world to know it's not aliens or a conspiracy theory that shut the Sunspot down. He says it's much more likely because of a mismanaged history of security at the facility, and now some very expensive and very strange equipment has turned up missing. The Sunspot Observatory has been closed for more than a week. Now, an employee there wants to put some of the conspiracy theories to rest.
I have noticed that Sunspot is basically what I would call a breeding ground for crime.
He asked not to be identified to protect his job.
But they're getting in the buildings, plundering supplies, plundering old computer systems, taking those, or looting basically, and vandalism. And this is a regular occurrence. This isn't just a once-in-a-blue moon thing. This is it can happen on a weekly basis.
Aura officials say that there is no risk to staff and that plan to resume operations tomorrow. They also said they stayed silent during the shutdown in order to not tip off that suspect.
Let's quickly recap what we know. The town of Sunspot and the local post office are evacuated, with witnesses describing seeing Black Hawk helicopters and swarms of FBI and other law enforcement, some of which were crawling around on antennas and looking at radio towers. And then Aura, who had originally said that the reason for the closure at the observatory was due to a safety concern, changed their story and claimed that it was to not tip off the potential suspect in this strange pornography case. Then we had this anonymous employee who came forward and said that they felt like security was extremely relaxed at the observatory. And finally, 11 days later, the observatory reopens as if nothing had happened. 3 days later, on September 20th, the FBI doubled down on their pornography cover story by releasing this 30-plus page affidavit for a search warrant. They claimed that this warrant debunks any sort of conspiracy theory as to what happened at the Solar Observatory. However, I disagree. I think that the release of this affidavit actually casts more doubt on the so-called official story. Let me tell you why. The first thing that I noticed about this affidavit was that it seemed extremely generic. Approximately 80% of the data in the affidavit felt to me like it was from some form of a template, and it actually had nothing to do with the particulars of Sunspot, but more to do with explaining technology and citing law. And honestly, the whole affidavit had a sort of rushed feel, as if it was thrown together haphazardly or done at the last minute. And as far as the information that was revealed about Sunspot, it didn't take me very long to find some discrepancies or suspicious statements. Take a look at page 2 of the affidavit. We find a statement that shows that the laptop is already in possession of the FBI, and that the warrant itself is to authorize the examination of this laptop, not to raid the observatory, and certainly not to shut it down for 11 days. The next few pages of the affidavit simply talk about the officer's credentials, but then on page 8 they finally give some more details about the actual investigation. Here they state that they have probable cause to suspect that someone has been using the computer systems at the observatory to access illegal pornography. Well, that's pretty vague. I mean, seriously? The next several pages of the affidavit are full of technical information that really has nothing to do with the Sunspot case, and it explains what should be obvious to a judge who issues warrants for cybercrimes. Anyhow, on page 21 of the affidavit, we finally get to some of the official story. It appears that on July 27, 2018, over a month before the Sunspot closure, the FBI was scanning CPS systems for flags, and they found some old data from January to July 2017 that showed multiple IP addresses from the observatory logged in the CPS system. So they contacted the director of the SDO, and on August 2nd, the FBI, along with the director of the Solar Dynamics Observatory, the IT manager for the SDO, and the director of Aura, all had a conference call. They decided on that call to reopen the Wi-Fi at the observatory, which had been shut down a few days earlier, in order to trap the offender. And apparently, they succeeded. So over the next few days, they monitored this individual and tracked him online. Keep in mind that all of this happened at the beginning of August, a full month before the shutdown at the observatory, and so far we have nothing to explain why they chose September 6th to march up that mountain with Black Hawk helicopters and armies of men in order to shut that place down. Now here's something else that I find extremely suspicious. Check this out. On August 21st, the SDO director told the FBI that one of his employees had seen a laptop several months earlier with suspicious pornography on it. Wait, so one of these guys found a laptop unattended that was downloading child porn and he said nothing to anyone? Well, if that's true, that asshole should go to jail. Anyhow, the FBI seized this laptop on August 21st, but they waited until September 6th to raid the observatory. Why? That makes no sense. In fact, it makes no sense to raid the observatory at all, since the FBI already had the laptop in their possession, and a raid would tell the suspect that you're onto him. Why not just quietly get your search warrant and then search the laptop and then arrest the subject once you have the proof? Doesn't that make more sense? So, how does an affidavit to search a laptop supposedly explain a raid at the Sunspot Solar Observatory and closure of the facilities, post office, and surrounding areas for 11 days? It simply doesn't. There may very well have been a coincidental investigation going on at the time into this subject. However, that has nothing to do with what happened at the Sunspot Observatory, in my opinion. How does the FBI explain the closure of 6 other telescopes at the same time, if that's the case? They have no answer for that question. And to that, all I have to say is,
why don't you wake up and smell what you shoveling?
So what really happened at Sunspot, New Mexico? At first, I was leaning towards espionage. Because of the whole Huawei incident that came up a few months after that.
Center in Beijing today, a report from Reuters that the U.S. president is preparing to sign an executive order making it impossible for American companies to use Huawei's equipment.
I thought that maybe a foreign spy agency managed to get compromised hardware into one of our computer systems. But that wouldn't explain the outages at the other telescopes at the same time. And so now I'm leaning towards the explanation that maybe these telescopes actually spotted something that they shouldn't have. I mean, what other explanation is there? What else explains the massive response of Blackhawks and swarms of FBI and other law enforcement, the blatant stonewalling of the government, the closure of the post office in the surrounding area near the observatory, and the shutdown of multiple telescopes? Whatever happened up there, it was big. I guarantee that. The government's not going to shut down any place for 11 days, let alone a remote mountaintop full of scientific equipment, unless there's a real danger, not a threat, a real danger. Or you have something that you just cannot let anybody see. At this point, I can only speculate about what actually happened at Sunspot, New Mexico. Was it UFOs that were spotted? Who knows, because none of the telescope information has been released from that missing period, at least that I could find. And clearly the government isn't going to tell us what's happening, or they would have by now. I agree with Sheriff Benny House, who called the way that the FBI handled this situation chicken shit. Because clearly there was a very real danger to the public, and instead of letting people know, they kept us all in the dark. And that's a bunch of chicken shit. At least that's my opinion. What do you all think? Do you think the SDO saw something it shouldn't have? Or do you think the FBI story is legit? Let me know in the comments below. As usual, the links for all of our source material are down in the description below. Use those links to go out and read the information for yourself, then make up your own mind. Well guys, for now that's all I got on the Sunspot New Mexico closure. I'll be sure to follow this story, and if anything new develops, I will get it right out to y'all. As always, this has been Manny at Area 503, and I wish you all the best until we meet again. And I am out of here to continue my search for universal truth.